The story kicks off 3 decades ago, right when the skies ripped open and countless monsters swarmed the world, an event known as the Rush. In response, the human race awakened classes and managed to kick the beasts out. However, a brand new setback popped up. From then on, society got divided. Magic wielders rose up as the elite, while everyone else was downgraded to commoners. Professions lacking magical talent started being treated like the absolute bottom of the barrel. However, gripping his wooden sword with absolute conviction, one person kept his hopes high. That would be Tatsuma Amori, who is completely convinced that the era of sword users will make a triumphant comeback. The kid explains that he originally hails from Earth and got pulled into this alternate reality. 3 years ago, he was taken in by a humble commoner couple. Despite the family's extreme poverty, the boy grew up surrounded by love in that home. Apologizing for not having anything better to give, his adoptive dad gifts the kid a sword. Promising unconditional support, the man assures him that he and his wife will grind even harder at work. The couple's goal was to buy magical items and enroll the boy in the most prestigious academy around. His mom agrees, stating she knows the kid has an unbreakable spirit, regardless of his humble beginnings. Carrying that massive responsibility, Tatsuma decides he absolutely needs to become the most powerful guy out there. He figures that, even though the world changed, the arrogance of the elite stayed exactly the same, believing power only comes from your bloodline. Clenching his fists, he reflects on how the rich crush the less fortunate using their status, completely ignoring that innate talent doesn't equal true strength. Right after, his eyes drop to the old, worn-out weapon he got from his dad. At that moment, he remembers the day he got the sword, noticing his parents' guilt over not being able to afford something top-tier. But deep down, the kid's got a blazing spirit, a force he considers way stronger than any magic spell. Tatsuma emphasizes that he never once judged or blamed his adoptive parents for the struggles they went through. To him, that rusty jeer was more than enough to help him climb to the very top. Since they had already given him the most valuable gift possible, the rest was just details. Full of conviction, our hero continues his journey, ready to tackle any roadblock. His number one goal right now is making sure his family never goes through any hardship again. He makes a promise to repay all the faith they put in him by becoming the absolute strongest fighter in that world. Shifting the scene to a massive, packed plaza, Tatsuma's name blares over the loudspeaker for the class advancement ceremony. The crowd quickly spots him, hyping him up as the Academy's #1 student and the greatest prodigy among the commoners. People are mind blown that he passed every single combat exam and scored perfectly in swordsmanship, even without having a class. The snobs, however, just laugh it off, calling it a pipe dream and claiming a guy without magic is destined to be a flop. A guy in the crowd agrees, noting it's a given that a swordsman will end up with a garbage rank. The elite start throwing shade at the commoners nearby, ordering the trash to back up immediately. They mock the kid, saying swords went out of style ages ago, and that focusing on them is a one-way ticket to being useless forever. They gossip that even if the kid gets super lucky, he's just giving the regular folks false hope before reality hits them like a truck. The rich kids make sure to loudly point out that lower class people will never move up in life and need to stop dreaming of the impossible. Completely ignoring the haters, Tatsuma stays locked in and walks straight toward the energy pillar. He reaches out and touches the glowing panel to find out what destiny the system has in store for him. A blinding light flashes across the plaza as the giant machine processes his results. The holographic display finally reveals the kid's class. He's a rank D swordsman. The entire crowd's hopes instantly go up in smoke, realizing miracles just don't happen since even their huge prodigy fell short. One of the blue-collar workers bawls his eyes out, convinced the commoners are doomed to live in the dirt forever. Loving the tragic vibe, the fancy pants crowd laughs out loud, calling everyone a bunch of helpless fools. Looking down, the kid checks his stats and realizes he got the absolute worst class on the menu. But he flips his mindset in a heartbeat, finding the whole thing hilarious and deciding the game is far from over. Even with a bottom-tier rank and becoming the laughingstock of the day, the boy stands his ground. Instead of getting bummed out, Tatsuma actually believes things lined up perfectly for the start of his journey. A staff member announces the start of the freshman evaluation, pointing out that their scores will dictate their university spots. The rich kids sneer that only the lowest scorer gets booted, totally sure Tatsuma already has his name written on that loser's ticket. They remind everyone that the kid is the only low-class student in the mix, meaning he has zero chance of dodging elimination. Cutting the chatter, the instructor orders the students to step up when called to grab their starter gear. Setsu is up first, causing a huge uproar in the crowd since she's the famous rank S archer. One girl just can't stop hyping her up, claiming she's an unreal rank SSS prodigy. Looking effortlessly cool, the archer grabs an elven bow packed with ice stats and makes way for the next student. Right after, it's the MC's turn to step up as soon as his name echoes through the speakers. Tatsuma asks for a sword, but gets hit with the news that his class only lets him pick from the absolute weakest tier of weapons. The guy in charge hands him a completely rusted blade, mockingly telling him to be careful not to break the relic. The dude laughs his head off, claiming the weapon is pure junk and can be tossed in the trash when the event wraps up. Paying zero attention to the cheap shots, the kid turns and walks away, gripping his busted item. At that exact moment, another competitor shows off a massive electric hammer, looking at the swordsman like he's out of his mind. The MC tests the weight of the rusty metal, deciding the balance is great and focusing entirely on the weapon's utility. He notices that the elite's flashy gear seems to belong to a totally different universe than his. Still, Tatsuma knows full well that a little creativity is all it takes to turn any old stick into a lethal weapon. With everyone in position, the announcer drops the news that the nearby woods have been overrun by creatures from another dimension. He quickly chills the students out, letting them know the monsters don't go past level 2. The memo stresses that there's no real danger, as long as each student actually uses their class skills. To keep things safe, the organizers give the green light for students to freely team up to explore the zone. However, any points scored from hunting will be strictly split among the team members, which will directly impact their final grade. Watching the kid walk away, an arrogant student throws a jab, asking if he's running off to dodge getting humiliated in public. The guy keeps poking the bear, stating nobody would be dumb enough to carry the worst student in the exam on their back. Right then, the rank S archer walks by and bluntly asks if he really plans on tackling the challenge solo. Without missing a beat, the kid confirms he'd rather fly solo, doubting anyone would even invite him to a party anyway. The girl instantly pegs him as a lone wolf who thrives on danger, and the guy just gives her a silent nod. Behind them, the other competitors glare daggers at the two, itching for the battle to start. Fixing his posture, the swordsman waves goodbye to the girl, saying he'll catch her in the combat zone. On his way to the jungle, he notices how the rich drop fortunes on upgraded gear just to buy an easy win. Meanwhile, he'll have to survive the hardcore challenge using nothing but the rusty piece of iron in his hands. The system interface pops up, letting him know the worn-out sword has nerfed damage and terrible durability. Watching the kid step through the portal, Setsu is totally puzzled by where all his confidence is coming from. She wonders if his ego comes from his perfect score in swordsmanship, a super tough subject that honestly offers zero practical perks. The archer figures melee classes have no real future in a world totally run by magic. Tatsuma just gives a low-key smirk, fully aware that everyone there shares the exact same opinion about him. Stepping onto the battlefield, the main character is dead set on proving he's not just some flop. He strongly believes that true power comes from grit, not from whatever social class you were born into. Walking with his sword, the kid thinks back to the enchanted weapons loaded with advanced circuits. Heavy duty gear gives regular folks a level of defense they could never dream of achieving on their own. The big secret behind the elite's gear is exactly that aura of pure magic baked right into them. Thanks to that, anyone can unleash massive destructive power with just a simple swing. Because of this, actual skill doesn't matter anymore, since winning just becomes a shortcut you can buy with cash. Shifting focus to the forest, a high-class kid flattens a wolf using the sheer force of a giant electric hammer. His buddies cheer at the hit, totally amazed by the weapon's insane power. The hammer guy brags about his own strength and brushes off the starter zone creatures as way too weak. The rich kid hypes himself up, claiming his weapon could easily one-shot level 3 beasts. Celebrating their crazy firepower, the trio goes ahead and crowns themselves the top team, guaranteeing first place. Suddenly, a terrifying scream echoes through the dark woods, totally ruining their victory lap. Freaked out by the random noise, one of the guys spots something moving in the bushes. A kid with glasses bursts out of the brush, absolutely panicking over whatever he just witnessed. The three of them stumble upon a massive pile of defeated wolves, realizing that body count is just unreal. They can't wrap their heads around how someone racked up that many eliminations so fast in the exam. The squad leader points out they haven't crossed paths with any high-tier teams along the way. Suspecting a wildcard competitor is crashing the party, the glasses kid decides to cast a tracking spell on the perimeter. He's totally baffled by the lack of magic traces, but quickly brushes off the idea that a physical combat class could have pulled it off. Right then, a figure steps out of the shadows and tells the snobs to back away from his loot. The hammer guy recognizes the commoner and starts laughing in his face non-stop. Mocking the whole situation, he asks if the freshman seriously thinks he took out the beasts using a garbage blade. Tatsuma just stares back at the rich kids, totally silent with a deadpan look. The group leader confidently states that physical hits can't piece the creature's armor and claims the kid is just passing through. The magic user inspects the wounds closely and concludes they were made by a high-tier wind spell. The leader turns to the boy and asks if he's really the one who caused that mess with a piece of junk. Replying that it wasn't exactly magic, the swordsman casually swings his blade through the air at a terrifying speed. He explains that the sheer force of his hyper-fast swing caused the damage, but the mage immediately calls him a liar. Pointing a finger at the kid, the snob asks if the commoner thinks they're a bunch of idiots. Furious at the disrespect, the rich kid throws a fit, demanding to know how a normal human could pull off something so impossible. Keeping his cool, Tatsuma points out that the only limitations are the ones stuck in their narrow minds. While the MC stays totally chill, a wild wolf leaps right at the back of the hammer guy. His buddies go into full panic mode, screaming to warn him about the fatal threat. The elite kid turns his head, sweating bullets, and watches the creature open its jaws to ruin his day. But before it even lands a scratch, the monster gets brutally sliced in mid-air by the swordsman. The wolf hits the dirt totally lifeless, splashing the whole squad. The rich kid struggles to process what just happened, swearing the commoner didn't even move his blade to save him. He's left completely speechless, figuring it's literally impossible for the loser to have pulled off a move like that. Tatsuma mentions that the monsters built up a massive resistance to physical attacks after the invasion event. Because of that upgrade, pure physical class attacks basically stopped doing any damage to them. Thanks to that unfair twist, melee fighters started getting treated like total deadweight. But, gripping his sword tight, the hero proves that his situation is built different. He explains that when a class awakens, the system hands out a randomized perk to the user. His passive talent completely cancels out any advantage the enemy has, flat out ignoring all their resistances. Because of that broken skill, he can slice through elite monsters like butter, so he casually waves goodbye to the group. The hammer dude, however, refuses to be brushed off and barks at the freshman to freeze right there. The snob drops a heavy threat, warning the commoner he can't just steal their points and bounce. Stopping in his tracks, Tatsuma glances over his shoulder, totally confused about what the guy is even crying about. The arrogant kid argues that the monster spawn rate is limited, meaning the kid is ruining the exam for everyone else. He keeps whining, insisting the commoner is already destined to finish the evaluation dead last anyway. Looking calmly at the rich boy, the swordsman casually warns him that the final scoreboard might end up giving them all nightmares. The squad leader decides to play dirty, threatening to accuse the kid of cheating so his score gets wiped to 0. Glaring with pure rage, the snob demands that the average Joe accept reality and bow down to the elite. Losing his patience, his buddy pulls out a knife and demands the kid hand over all his points and drop out of the test instantly. The magic user uses the distraction to lock down the MC's arms with super dense magic chains. The team thinks it's an easy win, figuring there's no way a guy without magic could break free from 3 armed elites. Even completely tied up, Tatsuma doesn't lose his cool and shuts down their extortion attempt on the spot. The knife guy loses his mind, feeling super disrespected that a low-class nobody is looking down on him. Setting up a cheap shot, the leader sneers that taking the kid out with the hammer will just be written off as a tragic accident. Before things can get uglier, a terrifying, beastly roar makes the entire jungle shake. The group looks around terrified, realizing the sound was way too heavy to come from a basic wolf. The swordsman squints his eyes, sensing that the real threat is already breathing down their necks. With an earth-shattering crash, a colossal creature lands, wrecking everything in its path. The system flashes a danger warning, announcing that taking down this monster will drop legendary tier loot. The giant beast flashes its glowing fangs and howls to strike fear into anyone trespassing on its turf. Shaking off the panic real quick, the leader's eyes bug out, just thinking about the payload defeating the creature would bring. Completely ignoring the commoner, he orders his buddies to push up and spam debuff spells on the giant beast. Following orders without a second thought, the henchman rushes in, firing off a slicing ice attack right at the monster. But the giant wolf dodges the spell in a blink, making it crystal clear this fight wasn't going to be a walk in the park. With surreal speed, the beast counters instantly, landing a devastating hit that sends the team flying. Shaking with terror, the mage realizes the exam's difficulty just broke the scale, and one single hit from that thing means game over. Tatsuma yells at the kid to stop standing there like a statue and break the magic chains already. But the team leader bans his buddy from doing it, declaring they're going to ditch the rookie to use him as bait. The prep kid sprints away without looking back, convinced that leaving snacks behind will boost his odds of making it out in one piece. Instantly, the beast charges brutally at the runaway mage. Using the distraction, the swordsman flexes his raw physical strength and shatters the spell holding him down. Watching the cowards run off, he draws his worn-out weapon, hyped to test his strength against a top-tier boss. Fueled by pure guts, the kid sprints full tilt right at the giant monster. With a massive leap, he launches himself into the air, completely zeroed in on his target. Tatsuma throws a direct strike, aiming to see exactly what the boss is made of. But the giant wolf blocks it by crossing its front paws, easily stopping the blade in its tracks. Thanks to the crazy impact, the MC gets blasted backward hard. Skidding across the dirt, he's actually impressed to see the beast didn't take a single scratch. Annoyed by the human's nerve, the colossal monster lets out an ear-splitting roar. With its glowing crimson eyes full of rage, the predator locks all its aggro onto the kid. The creature lunges in a violent rush, proving it somehow got even faster. Tatsuma uses his sword to jam the beast's bite. Feeling the sheer weight of its ridiculous power, he genuinely wonders if the basic attack of a rank S boss always packs this much heat. Spotting the cracks forming on his blade, the boy realizes the hunk of metal has hit its absolute limit. Hiding in the bushes far away, the elite squad leader watches the whole thing, completely shell-shocked. The rich kid can barely process that the bottom-tier student actually tanked a hit from a zone boss. Putting its back into it, the massive wolf tries its hardest to flatten the commoner into the dirt. The hammer guy cowardly assumes the rookie just lost his mind and is practically begging to be eliminated. But in that make or break second, the swordsman feels the fear kick start his absolute purest survival instincts. The monster winds up for a fatal paw swipe, forcing the kid to put 100% of his focus into defense. He realizes this is the exact flow state he earned by grinding endlessly to perfect his sword skills. With a razor-sharp dodge, the kid escapes the Grim Reaper by a hair, using a move he calls the Blade Dance. Tatsuma finally gets that a warrior's true peak only shows up when the end is staring them right in the face. Fighting for his life, he coats the busted sword in his aura, triggering the sync skill through the system. Letting out a battle cry, the MC delivers a flawless strike using his now energy-infused blade. The rank S monster's eyes go wide, getting caught totally off guard by the blinding speed of the sneak attack. In one smooth motion, the boy lops off the beast's massive limb, causing a fountain of damage. He gets hyped over the hit, noticing the power boost from the skill was way better than he expected. With a confident little smirk, Tatsuma assures himself that losing isn't on the menu anymore. But the beast lets out a blood-curdling howl right as a dark, crimson aura wraps around its wounds. Totally unhinged, the creature blitzes forward at hyperspeed to shred its prey. The sword kid barely has a second to breathe, forced to weave through an insane barrage of furious swipes. The monster's attack barely misses and smashes the ground, carving out a giant crater right next to the MC. Amazed by the destructive force, the kid figures the wolf's physical strength just got a massive multiplier. A split second later, he's forced to throw his guard up fast to tank another heavy-duty charge. The clash between the two sets off a massive shockwave that levels everything in the area. Unable to eat all the kinetic energy, the commoner kid gets dragged backward, carving 2 trenches into the dirt. Nearby, the prep kid is muttering curses in pure terror, telling his own legs to start running. Right then, the MC gets pushed back by the impact, sliding right past the cowardly noble, just staring at him in dead silence. Keeping a poker face, Tatsuma just tells the daddy's boy to get the heck out of his way immediately. The hammer guy freezes on the spot, quietly asking himself if this dude is seriously the worst student in the exam. Paralyzed by fear, he realizes the kid's energy shifted so much it basically feels like a monster itself. Totally ignoring the coward, the MC keeps walking with purpose straight back to his real opponent. Taking advantage of the staggered boss, he lines up a calculated jump to end the fight once and for all. Without blinking, the kid buries his blade deep into the wolf's chest, ensuring the beast's elimination. Dead silence takes over the zone as the warrior stands tall on top of the defeated boss's carcass. However, the victory comes with a hefty price tag, forcing the kid to squeeze his eyes shut in pain for redlining his physical limits. Grabbing his head, he realizes his body just crashed, and the buffs from the sync skill have totally worn off. Despite being completely wiped out, a weird noise makes the swordsman crack an eye open, noticing someone sneaking up. The leader of the prep steps out holding his electric hammer, sarcastically clapping and admitting the low-class kid is actually brilliant. Flashing a psycho look, the playboy hoists his weapon, announcing that the commoner's lucky streak just hit a brick wall. The boy glares daggers at him, asking if the trash isn't worried about getting hit back. But before he can even swing, Tatsuma coughs up damage and drops to his knees from absolute exhaustion. The snob lets out a relieved laugh, mocking how the hero tried to play savior and just exposed his massive weak spot. The coward brags that the graders will totally buy that the monster did the deed, handing him the title of sole survivor of the disaster. Winding up the hammer with everything he's got, the villain yells excitedly that he's finally going to be the undisputed alpha. Even totally drained, the hero scrapes together his very last drop of energy, vowing not to bow out like this. With pure spite in his eyes, He promises he'd never let some cowardly garbage take him out. Leaning on his fighter's pride, Tatsuma raises his weapon to block the incoming nuke of an attack. A massive flash of light bursts from the clash, and the rich kid yells at the boy to stop fighting a lost cause. Cranking up the pressure, the arrogant jerk tells the commoner to go to sleep, while snapping the rusty blade clean in half. But right at the peak of the snob's victory lap, a creepy purple shadow slithers through the air right behind him. The rich kid's laugh cuts off immediately when he feels the crushing aura of the massive monster breathing down his neck. A spine-chilling silence drops over them as the true predator's crimson eyes glow in the shadows. With one lightning-fast swipe, the wolf swats the leader away like he weighs absolutely nothing. Radiating a blinding purple light, the monster reveals it just popped its berserker rage at max level. The system drops a notification that this ultimate buff activates when the boss is on its last leg, doubling its stats. The kid realizes the beast faked its own defeat just to make him drop his guard, calling the strategy super cheap. Watching the wolf wind up for another round, Tatsuma grips his shattered sword, ready to counter now that he caught his breath. The boy notices the Blood Fury trades defense for attack, seeing this critical window as the perfect shot for a counter. Keeping his cool, he jams the broken sword into the dirt, using the ground like a makeshift sheath. The massive wolf charges and roaring at full throttle, while the kid channels all his energy, willpower, and faith into the busted weapon. Blinded by rage, the beast closes the gap growling, totally ready to tear the MC apart. The giant boss gets right in his face, leaking a terrifying purple energy from its claws. Seizing the opening, Tatsuma fires up the sync skill one more time and unleashes an uppercut slash straight from the floor. With an earth-shattering crack, the upward strike rips through space and nails the beast perfectly, bypassing any chance of a block. Right after the dust settles, the system announces the alpha wolf has been wiped out and rewards the kid with 10,000 points. Sprinting through the trees, Setsu uses her comms to report the freak monster invasion and begs for emergency backup for the wounded. The archer girl finally bursts into the boss room, finding the hero completely gassed but rocking a subtle smirk. Spotting her, he jokes that the cavalry showed up at the exact right time, right before he clocks out. Unable to fight off the heavy fatigue, the boy passes out cold right in front of his classmate. Cutting back to the university hub, the leaderboard shows Tatsuma sitting comfortably in first place with a crazy 10,300 points. The crowd is losing their minds, asking which Imori this is, until someone confirms it's the rank D commoner. One student completely panics, claiming the score has to be a bug because it's 25 times higher than the genius archers. Furious, a rich kid screams that the system is broken, calling it an outrage that a regular guy bruised the elite's ego by taking the top spot. The rest of the snobs back him up instantly, accusing the freshman of using hacks and demanding his score be wiped. Amidst the chaos, an inspector with glasses runs diagnostics on his magic tablet, getting a hard confirm from the system. The official gulps and tells the crowd he's got some really heavy news to share. The monitor brings up the rescued students while the staffer explains that the beasts in the central zone went rogue out of nowhere. He reports that 2 nobles didn't make it and 1 is badly hurt, leaving the high-class crowd completely shook. Reading off the log, the inspector reveals the survivor Tatsuma took down a level 5 threat, soloing all the points for the kill. The crowd flat out refuses to believe a sword warrior dropped a boss, figuring he just stole a monster that was already on its way out. A student yells in outrage, asking if a score like that even counts when it cost noble lives along the way. Flashing back to the jungle, the archer grills the bandaged kid to find out what actually went down in the fight. Playing it off like it was nothing, the MC lies, saying he just got incredibly lucky by swinging his blade at the exact right second. But the girl claps back that she scanned the zone and found 0 magic residue, proving the hits were pure physical talent. Giving him a hard side eye, she asks if he seriously soloed the alpha wolf without anybody backing him up. The girl pieces it together, guessing the rich kids tried to steal the kill points and ended up becoming the raging wolf's first appetizers. Pivoting the conversation super fast, Tatsuma rubs his forehead and calls her theory a wild conspiracy. The archer asks if the rookie even plans to clear his name against the cheating rumors, but he replies that it'd be a total waste of breath. The kid chooses to stay quiet, knowing the elite already made up their minds and arguing wouldn't fix their bias anyway. Gripping his snap blade tight, he thinks to himself that even a tossed-out piece of trash can prove its worth. With his eyes locked in and full of resolve, the boy promises that his combat skills will do all the talking from now on. Somewhere else, the Board of Examiners agrees that zeroing out the commoner's score is the smartest play to cool off the angry nobles. The head grader grabs the mic and announces to the crowd that the vote to void Tatsuma's points passed unanimously. The elite immediately starts clapping, mocking that an average Joe shouldn't even dream of sitting at the top of the ladder. A second later, the big screen fakes a system glitch, wiping the kid's name and bumping the archer up to first place. Brushing past the quarrer, the official goes back to business and reads off the updated roster of students who cleared the test. However, while reading off the names, the grader stutters when he sees the hero secured the 100th spot with exactly 0 points. The whole crowd is left dumbfounded seeing the supposed loser's name in the very last open slot, right on the cutoff line. Tilted out of their minds, the students scream asking how someone passes with 0 points, assuming the board is glitching again. Sweating buckets, the staffer checks the logs, trying to figure out why a bunch of students ended up in the negative. The screen pulls up a list of nobles who totally bombed the cutoff because of massive penalty deductions on their accounts. The rulebook quickly clears things up. Hitting teammates or griefing other people's fights hits you with brutal point penalties. Strolling down the street, Tatsuma figures the cowards who tried to end him, and the guys who fought each other basically played themselves. Thanks to those heavy fines, the kid's flat 0 ended up becoming the exact passing grade he needed to scrape into the university. Looking up at the sky, the MC cracks a slight smile, realizing Lady Luck actually had his back this time around. But then annoying prep kid pops up yelling that the commoner's fate hasn't changed, and the academy is going to be absolute heck for him. The guy walks off with his crew, warning that without a stacked family tree to carry him, the freshman won't last a week. Finding the threat hilarious, the guy smirks, thinking the idea of living in heck actually sounds like a good time. Walking with his hands in his pockets, totally chill. He's actually pumped to see if the rich kids have the guts to face him during the semester. A little while later, the fresh batch of students herds into Raijin University's massive courtyard for their first day of class. Right at the gate, Tatsuma checks out the upperclassmen's uniforms and spots that the badges sort the students by social tier. Out of nowhere, a bossy voice booms across the entrance, barking at someone to freeze right at the turnstile. Two beefy upperclassmen glare at a regular guy, demanding to know why the trash thinks he can use the elite's main gate. The muscle-head senior points over to a tiny side door, telling him that's the only road approved for nobodies like him. Watching the drama unfold from a distance, the MC sees the poor guy desperately trying to explain himself to the power-tripping guard, but the snob isn't having any of it, and tells the freshman to strip and crawl through, claiming his clothes broke the dress code. Roughly yanking the kid, the senior brags that the nobility set up this humiliating tradition to make the class gap crystal clear. Before the big guy can rip the student's shirt, Tatsuma grabs the bully's wrist in a vise grip and tells him to knock it off right now. The meathead mumbles in confusion and snaps his head around, shocked to see who had the guts to ruin his fun. The rich kid instantly spots the hero, remembering the loudmouth rookie who somehow made it out of the forest in one piece. The prep flashes a crooked grin, assuming it was some wannabe hero with a death wish, but relaxes when he realizes it's just the famous loser. He points out he already warned him the school would be a nightmare, thinking it's wild the kid actually bothered showing up. Laughing out loud, the bully points to the side door and orders the MC to get on his knees, strip down, and put on a dog collar to get inside. The suit-wearing guy backs him up, claiming it's standard procedure and trying to spook the kid by saying he's next on the chopping block. But keeping totally cool, the swordsman drops some facts, saying any student who got in on pure merit has full rights to use the main gate. Staring the snob down, he drops a truth bomb. The elite might wear expensive threads, but deep down, they're completely hollow. The big shots standing nearby lose their minds over the disrespect, deciding it's a huge mistake for human garbage to talk back to a noble like that. Clenching his fists, the senior barks that the rulebook allows roughing up lower classes, promising to beat the MC to a pulp. Letting out a heavy sigh, the boy realizes these arrogant rich kids always find an excuse to flex their authority on day one. Flashing a look of pure pity, he calls the whole squad pathetic for bullying weaker folks, just to stroke their own fragile egos. The hero wraps up his roast by saying if you stripped away their fancy last names, every single one of them would just be trash. Shaking with rage over the insults, the bully figures the bold kid is practically begging to get sent packing. Without even flinching at the threat, the swordsman tells the prep that, if he's that mad, he should stop overthinking and just swing with everything he's got. He promises to give the myth head a brutal reality check, making him feel every ounce of pain he dished out to everyone else. Standing tall, the guy makes it crystal clear that his patience for the rich class's bullying just hit absolute zero. With that, he swears he's going to pay back every bit of humiliation multiplied by 100, burning that promise right into the noble's brain. Blinded by rage at the disrespect, the bully charges in with a loaded punch, swearing to beat the freshman until he stops breathing. As the fist flies in, Tatsuma just casually leans a couple inches to the side, dodging the hit without even breaking a sweat. Capitalizing on the massive opening, the hero delivers a savage hook straight to the bully's jaw. With zero time to block, the rich kid gets blasted backward by the monstrous power of the counter. The big shot's body violently tumbles across the hard pavement, kicking up a massive dust cloud at the campus entrance. He only stops moving when he slams hard into the base of the academy wall, a crazy distance away from where the fight kicked off. Out cold, the bully lies completely still on the ground, twitching slightly, proving the whole fight was wrapped up in one single punch. A few feet away, a teacher freezes in pure shock while the sword kid just casually dusts off his hands like it was nothing. The whole crowd stands there with their jaws on the floor, absolutely rattled that the giant bully got launched like that. People whisper in terror that the commoner folded the big threat, using just his bare hands. Getting chills thinking about what he'd do with a sword. Ignoring the gossip, the kid turns his back and peacefully strolls down the path the terrified crowd just parted for him. Walking through the massive front gates, Tatsuma keeps cruising while the rest of the school struggles to process the instant knockout. Out of nowhere, the lower-class students start a slow clap, feeling a massive wave of relief seeing the myth head get dropped. Instantly, the whole squad erupts into wild cheers, hyping up the flawless hit that saved them all from a beating. Hearing the block party at the entrance, the MC glances over his shoulder and spots the spark of hope he just handed them. Walking casually, he admits he wasn't looking to get famous this early in the morning, but drawing a line in the sand definitely felt good. Reaching his room, the hero turns the knob and pushes the door open, finally moving into his dorm. Inside, a super hyped chubby kid introduces himself as Gu Matsuoka, letting him know everyone just calls him Bucko. The swordsman shakes the freshman's hand, drops his own name, and figures the guy seems pretty chill. Way too excited, Bucko throws an arm around his new buddy's neck while rambling about some mystery hero who just went off at the front gates. With a sweat drop on his face, the hero looks away, realizing the rumors of his brawl traveled at the speed of light. Waving his hams like crazy, the kid claims the mystery guy nearly punched the bully's head clean off in one shot. The gossip king swears the elite turned pale with fear, while Tatsuma takes a seat and realizes the story is already completely blown out of proportion. Sighing to himself, the MC admits it was just a basic counter, since the attacker turned out to be a total glass cannon. Starstruck by the epic tale, his roommate vows that this mystery warrior is his absolute idol from now on. Fired up, the chubby kid clenches his fists and promises he's also going to fight the school bullies to protect the little guys. Switching gears at warp speed, Bucko mentions he's a rank B paladin and asks what rank his new roommate is rocking. The boy is shook, guessing his buddy must have ground like an absolute madman to get accepted with just a rank D. Showing total loyalty, the friend grabs his shoulders and guarantees he's got his back, promising to use his own clout to keep him safe. Tatsuma holds back a laugh, remembering how much he hates doing group projects and finding the offer for free bodyguard services super weird. Still, he decides to play along and keep the mystery alive, knowing dropping the truth bomb right now would just ruin his peace and quiet. Shifting over to the infirmary, a snobby butler tells the battered patient that the head of the family expects a fast fix for this embarrassing mess. The bandaged up bully flips out on the stretcher and tells his lackey to shut up, letting his grudge over getting humbled by a commoner boil over. Grinding his teeth, he orders the butler to pull every shady string their family has on campus within 7 days. Pushing up his glasses like a total snob, the suited subordinate nods and promises to arrange a fatal accident for the freshman. Consumed by toxic hate, the method pictures his new rival drowning in total despair and covered in damage. He makes a twisted promise to grab front row seats to watch the target bite the dust, just to patch up his shattered ego. Bright and early the next day, the whole freshman class herds onto the massive training field for their first practical lesson. Hiding in the crowd, Bucko whispers that today's teacher loves torturing broke rookies and highly recommends staying under the radar. The tactics professor strolls up acting like he owns the place, looking at the freshman with pure disgust and arrogance. The guy introduces himself as Benjamin and drops his merit-only philosophy, making it obvious he has zero tolerance for weaklings. Shamelessly scanning the crowd, the teacher quickly locks onto the MC to confirm his target showed up. He flashes back to the shady phone call with the heavy hitter clan, where he agreed that just expelling the kid would be way too nice. In his backroom deal, the corrupt teacher promised to clear the blood debt by wiping that pest off the map entirely. Turning back to the class, the instructor checks the roster and sarcastically points out there's a rank D student who refuses to accept his place at the bottom. The nobles start whispering instantly, totally offended by the idea of breathing the same air as a useless nobody. Feeling the vibe shift, Bucko nudges his friend while sweating bullets, realizing the sneak diss was definitely aimed at Tatsuma. Dropping the act, Benjamin screams the kid's name with pure disgust and orders him to drop out right now, treating him like an insult to the school. Standing strong against the bullying, the guy fires back, saying he earned his spot fair and square through the entrance exams. Cranking up the sarcasm, the student admits he's actually dying to test out if all this elite trash talk holds up in a real fight. He starts giving a speech about power scaling, pointing out that leveling up is the most level playing field for getting stronger. On the flip side, he calls out the nobles built in perks, explaining how that massive head start totally wrecks any chance of early equality. In reality, the big bucks only flow to the rare classes, destroying any chance for the lower tiers to even try and fight back. Dropping his hot take, the kid warns that the basic numbers on the system menu don't actually show a person's real combat level. Turning up the volume, he breaks down how raw fighting skill is the ultimate, totally slept on wildcard for people without god tier genetics. Laughing in the face of the teacher's heavy threats, the boy admits the danger actually makes the whole thing a lot more fun. Straight up calling him out, Tatsuma dares the instructor to give them a live demo of that supposedly flawless elite education. Super triggered by the sass, Benjamin screams about the subordinate's disrespect in front of the whole class. Deciding to dish out some physical discipline, the guy picks the mouthy kid to serve as the class's disposable punching bag. The daddy's boys cheer for the brutal call, loving the cruel punishment and practically begging for a turn to join the beatdown. Panicking hard, Butcho grabs the MC's arm, begging him to apologize and fake a stomach ache to get out of it. Smoothly brushing his friend's hand away, Tatsuma drops the fact that real equality only happens when you back it up in a fight. He sticks to his guns, choosing to take the worst punishment they have with his head held high instead of living on his knees. Seeing that ironclad mindset, the chubby kid is left speechless and finally gets why his rank D buddy is so resilient. Dropping the conversation, the MC walks up the long stairs toward the center of the field where his trial is waiting. Watching his victim walk up, the teacher internally celebrates the golden ticket, thinking a public beatdown will save him a lot of overtime. Changing the rules at the last second, the dirty teacher bans the use of swords to leave the kid totally defenseless in the trap. The hero takes the nerf without a single complaint, stabbing his rusty blade into the floorboards because he refuses to let his weapon touch garbage. Loving the rigged setup, 3 rich kids immediately volunteer to kick off the heavy assault. Benjamin smirks with pure evil, green-lighting the volunteers instantly and telling the trio to jump the target all at once. The low-income freshmen start stressing over the cruel sentence, while the elite grabs their popcorn, waiting for the commoner to get wrecked. Adjusting his glasses like a supervillain, Benjamin points out he never promised a fair fight, making it clear the real world doesn't play nice with people who forget their place. Hearing that absolute garbage, Bucko freezes in shock in the middle of the student crowd. Standing totally chill in the middle of the field, the hero thinks to himself he doesn't even need his fists to wipe the floor with these nobodies. But breaking the tension, the paladin throws his hand up, shouting at the teacher to let him tag into the brawl. The instructor looks back and laughs, assuming the rookie wants to beat up his own friend to score brownie points with the rich kids. Sprinting to the center of the gym, the chubby kid shuts down that rumor and announces he's joining the swordsman squad. Finding the whole thing hilarious, the crook teacher flashes a sarcastic smile, joking that trash really does pile up together. Stepping in front of his teammate, Butcho says he switched up the game plan and begs the kid to survive just 1 minute before tapping out. Looking dead serious, the paladin promises to focus strictly on tanking hits to save his buddy's pride and keep him from getting expelled. Tatsuma is stunned but smiles, genuinely thankful. He originally planned to just stomp the trio, but now he has to worry about his roommate's street cred. The kid finds the setup kind of annoying, realizing he's going to have to fight in slow motion so he doesn't expose his actual power level. The second Benjamin yells go, the 3 elite kids unleash their destructive skills straight at the duo. In a flash, the chubby kid pops a massive wall of light, shocking the rich kids who instantly recognize the rarity of his defender class. Eating the insane magic pressure, the paladin yells at the swordsman to step back and wait for the signal to surrender. Right then, a thick fog rolls over the gym while the hero thinks to himself that waiting a full 60 seconds is way too boring. Using the smokescreen to his advantage, the boy sprints through the fog, dodging fireballs like it's a walk in the park. Popping up like a ghost, he delivers a lightning-fast surgical strike to the back of one playboy's head, dropping him instantly. Without losing any momentum, the warrior zips across the gym, tagging the other 2 rivals with crushing hits. Thanks to the precise combo, the last noble gets sent flying completely unconscious before his brain even registers what happened. The fog finally clears out, revealing all 3 attackers laid out on the floor, while the chubby kid is still sweating behind his shield. Holding up the magic wall and dripping sweat, the chubby kid jumps when his partner casually pats him on the back. Totally confused by the sudden peace and quiet, he turns around and asks if the match is over, getting a super chill yes in return. Scanning the arena, Buko's brain short, circuits trying to figure out why their rivals are suddenly taking a nap on the floor. Up in the bleachers, the crowd realizes the freshmen used the smokescreen to force a melee fight and silence the mages. Sweating cold bullets, Benjamin figures out the kid's physical stats are the real deal, probably forged in nasty street fights. But playing dumb, Tatsuma fake yells that the nobles got so hyper focused they ended up getting caught in their own chaotic crossfire. Buying the excuse instantly, the paladin punches his palm, figuring the trio spells must have collided with each other. The teacher calls the match and orders the knocked out students to be dragged away, using mana control issues as an excuse to cover up the embarrassing loss. The daddy's boys breathe a massive sigh of relief, convincing themselves the average Joe's win was just a total fluke. Looking up at the teacher, the kid easily reads the crooked guy's frustration as he wonders if he'll even survive much longer here. Looking away, the instructor drops the info for tomorrow's dungeon exam, guaranteeing absolutely nobody will let the commoner join their squad. Walking toward the exit, the teacher tries to drop one last threat, but the MC cuts him off, saying he's actually super hyped for the test. Flashing a cocky grin, Tatsuma jokes around, asking if he met the coward's strict standards for excellence. The next morning, every single student piles up in front of the testing gates for the highly anticipated dungeon run. Holding a megaphone, Benjamin announces the mission is to clear the normal difficulty, and anyone who flops gets booted from the academy. To keep the body count low, the teacher introduces a new rule of squads must have at least 3 people, including a minimum of 1 noble. The shady guy stresses that any regular student labeled as useless can't join, which Tatsuma instantly reads as a ban on him being carried for free points. Right then, Buko runs up super hyped, asking his buddy to party up and bragging that he already secured 2 free nobles. The paladin points over to a pair of suited up snobs nearby, visibly pumped about getting a solid team together. Introducing his buddy, he swears the swordsman is an absolute beast in a fight and will handle all the close quarters combat. However, one of the rich kids scoffs, recognizing the MC as the infamous guy who totally wrecks his own teams. His buddy nods, admitting he heard rumors about casualties in the exams and that no elite would ever tolerate a wild card like him. Buko is totally lost, having no clue where these wild accusations even came from. Tatsuma instantly pieces it together. Someone spread nasty rumors just to make sure the elite blacklisted him. Staring at Benjamin from across the yard, the kid realizes the teacher tweaked the rules, specifically to get him expelled without getting his own hands dirty. The paladin tries his best to explain that the accident was just bad luck, but the hero tells him not to waste his breath on them. Showing true loyalty, Buko vows he's sticking by the warrior, arguing that every squad needs a solid rank B tank anyway. The 2 elite kids look at each other completely baffled, not knowing how to handle this plot twist. The snob tries to apply pressure, bringing up a horror story about a broke freshman who supposedly ended her own life inside the maze. Tatsuma's face drops into a dead serious glare when the noble mentions the girl was stupid for turning down an invite from a lord. The disgusting guy brags that they stripped her gear and tossed her on the 3rd floor, leaving her to a miserable end and in the dark. Sounding like a threat, the rich kid tells the paladin to pick the winning side if he doesn't want to throw his own future in the trash. Running out of patience, the MC takes a step forward, reaches out, and asks if that's all the garbage they had to say. The noble draws a wooden practice blade while backing up in fear, reminding everyone that starting fights on campus leads to severe suspensions. Flashing a psycho glare, Tatsuma asks if a supposed team killer would even care about getting suspended right now. Terrified by the raw killing intent, the coward swings his wooden sword, just trying to defend himself however he can. But the MC barely twitches, shattering the guy's swing with a flawless parry, while the noble screams at him to back off. The rich kid stumbles back, shaking and clutching his bruised arm, totally mind blown that the kid didn't even bother dodging. Seeing things escalate, Butcho calls out to his buddy looking super stressed, checking to make sure he didn't take a hit. Looking at the ground, the swordsman just loudly points out that the school rulebook only bans offensive magic. Glaring at the cowards with pure rage, he breaks down the logic that plain old hand-to-hand combat is 100% legal. The rich kid starts sweating buckets seeing the boy slowly marching toward him, stuttering as he asks what the commoner thinks he's doing. Taking a heavy step forward, the kid makes it totally clear that the polite negotiations are officially over. Showing zero mercy, Tatsuma unleashes a devastating roundhouse kick right into the snob's face. Thanks to the sheer force of the blow, the rich kid's body is launched backward at a terrifying speed. The guy slams violently into the rock wall and crumples onto the pavement, moaning in pain. His buddy completely loses his mind seeing a high-class peer get folded and starts charging up a fire spell, screaming for revenge. In a blink, the swordsman blitzes in and grabs the opponent's glowing hand right before he can fire off the attack. With a brutal twist, he snaps the mage's wrist, making him scream in agony as his bones crack instantly. Capitalizing on the opening, the warrior finishes the combo by driving a heavy knee straight into the enemy's gut. The prep kid drops some drool with his eyes bugging out, having the wind completely knocked out of him by the heavy impact. Totally wrecked, the second attacker faceplants into the dirt with zero chance of fighting back. Standing in the background, the chubby kid is totally frozen, watching the privileged duo get dismantled in a matter of seconds. The first noble scrambles up in a panic, points his wooden sword, and begs the kid to stay away because his dad is a huge deal. Looking incredibly bored, Tatsuma makes it obvious he doesn't give a single flying care about the loudmouth's family connections. Butcho grabs his friend's shoulder in a full panic, warning him that beating the guy up will ruin their chances of forming a team for the test. Turning away, the warrior apologizes for losing his cool and promises he'll take the fall for the brawl all by himself. But the paladin yells back, reminding him there are other broke students here, and breaking the rules could tank everyone's future at the academy. Looking totally bummed, the friend points out that one dumb mistake from the hero will just make life even harder for the underdogs. Realizing his actions actually affect other people, the kid sighs and agrees to drop the fight for now. The warrior realizes the scuffle basically nuked any chance of them finding a team, and gets that he's the real reason they're being blacklisted. Not wanting to drag his buddy down, Tatsuma tells the paladin to keep his distance on campus so he doesn't catch any stray retaliation. Walking away looking down, the hero thinks to himself that playing solo is his only real option in this toxic, rich kid environment. He figures if everyone is out to get him, at least he won't risk getting friendly fire on his own guys. But then his friend breaks the silence. Bucko loudly praises his buddy's strength, admitting the hero had the guts to do exactly what he's always been too scared to do. With a fiery look in his eyes, the chubby kid swears he won't let his friend take the heat alone, and doubles down that he's got his back. The guy gives it to him straight, warning that even though he hates the rules, getting expelled right now would destroy any shot at fixing this garbage system. Hearing him vent, the sword kid's eyes widen a bit, genuinely surprised by the tough talk from the guy who's usually terrified of his own shadow. Finding the whole situation ironic, Tatsuma jokes that it's wild getting a morality check from literally the most easily spooked student on campus. Pumped up, his ally throws an arm around the hero's neck, suggesting that worst-case scenario, they just beg for a party invite right at the entrance. The regular kid agrees someone is bound to take them in, promising to play by the rules for a bit just so he can eventually reach his max potential. After walking together, the two finally reach the plaza where a creepy dimensional rift is floating in mid-air. Staring at the spooky portal, the kid jokes that the entrance to the exam definitely isn't trying to be subtle. Noticing the massive crowd of students jammed by the gate, the chubby kid agrees it's literally impossible to get lost. A few rich kids start gossiping when they see the MC show up, claiming the commoner is only breathing because of the school's safe zones. The crowd around them scatters fast to clear a path, whispering that just talking to the hero is basically a magnet for bad luck. Bucko starts sweating bullets, noticing that even their fellow low-tier classmates are terrified and backing away from them. Not caring at all about being the outcast, Tatsuma thinks to himself that sheep always run from the wolf, but they end up on the menu anyway. Right at that exact second, a super obnoxious laugh cuts through the noise, followed by heavy footsteps walking right at them. A flashy guy with red hair swaggers up reeking of arrogance, mocking them as he blocks the path of the legendary, unworthy commoner duo. Stopping right in front of them, the dude with the scary aura bluntly asks if he's really the famous Tatsuma. The freshman introduces himself as Hisashi Shin, while Bucko whispers in pure panic that this guy is a notorious rank A rogue from the elite class. Out of nowhere, the redhead slaps the chubby kids back like they're old pals, making the poor guy jump out of his skin and nearly have a heart attack. Acting curious, the rich guy invites the rank B paladin to join his squad to fill their main tank slot. The kid is totally thrown off by the random invite, while the sword guy just listens to the pitch in silence. Some nobles warn Hisashi that picking up the troublemaker's sidekick is social suicide and will totally tank his reputation. Confused by the offer, the chubby kid asks if it's a package deal, trying to secure a spot for his sword buddy too. Acting super cocky, the rogue shoots the idea down immediately, warning that his crew only wants the paladin for his shield. Rejecting the deal right off the bat, Bucko announces he's passing, stating that if his bro can't come, he's out too. The rank A noble then flips the script, offering to take just the swordsman and leave the chubby kid behind, testing exactly how far the freshman's loyalty goes. Trying to stir up some drama, the rich kid tells the rookie to take the deal already, arguing it's way too sweet of an offer to throw in the trash. Trying to calm his friend down, Tatsuma promises he can handle himself and points out that the last team they tried to build totally crashed and burned anyway. The hero turns his back on the duo, and the chubby kid asks, totally freaked out, if he's seriously okay with getting kicked out of the school. Right then, the redhead shouts at the MC, telling him to hold up a second. The playboy asks why the commoner didn't just beg for the slot, pointing out that all he had to do was prove he was way more useful than his buddy. Looking back at the veteran, the hero replies bluntly that the logical move is to let his partner grab the golden ticket. On top of that, the warrior thinks the whole offer is sketchy, questioning why this random guy showed up trying to help. Just minutes before they got disqualified. Laughing at the kid's sharp instincts, Hisashi admits the freshman is highly observant and doesn't miss a thing. Deciding to drop the act, the noble confesses he got his hands on some leaked intel about the exam's dungeon. He breaks down that the zone has a ridiculous anti-magic field, putting all the magic-reliant nobles in a massive hole. Because of that little detail, the lower-class kids focused on raw physical stats become super valuable, forcing him to hunt for a high DPS melee fighter. The rogue admits he would have killed the deal if the hero had actually betrayed his friend, claiming he wouldn't let snake-like behavior onto his team. Pointing right at the boy, the red-haired dude praises his loyalty and stresses that the hero is built totally different from the rest of the commoners. Acting like a big shot, the rich kid says he'll bend the rules and let the kid fight with them, demanding major gratitude for the carry. Without showing an ounce of emotion, Tatsuma reminds him that he's just a rank D warrior who recently picked a fight with basically the entire campus royalty. The smart kid guesses the redhead has a hidden agenda and knows that recruiting a rebel like him is basically declaring war on all the teachers and elites. Squinting his eyes in suspicion, the kid demands a genuinely good reason before he signs up for this crazy plan. Looking away, Hisashi tries to dodge the question, arguing that he just wanted to throw a rookie a bone and asks if that's not a good enough answer. Laughing hard at the terrible excuse, the MC guarantees the elite guy is also totally out of recruiting options in the courtyard. Breaking down his logic, the kid points out that the official rule forces teams to mix both social classes together. However, the real reason for that rule is to baby the rich kids who rely 100% on magic and would never clear the stage without a meat shield. Because of that, the staff forces lower class students into the mix to act as pure muscle to keep the elite from getting wrecked inside the cave. Staring the guy down, the warrior confidently states that absolutely zero nobles in the plaza will agree to team up with a dangerous rogue. On the flip side, the hero points out he's literally the only physical fighter left in the yard, forcing the veteran to pick him because he has zero other options. Pressing his advantage, Tatsuma flexes a bit, arguing that the noble is actually the one desperate for teammates so he doesn't fail the class. Super embarrassed, the playboy begs the rookie to keep his voice down, grumbling that getting rejected by a commoner is the ultimate humiliation. Feeling awkward, Hisashi asks the freshman to just pretend he owes him a massive favor and join the team so they can drop the drama. Trying to level the playing field, the veteran reminds the warrior that it's not like he has lines of teams begging him to join either. Agreeing with the facts, the warrior admits the deal makes sense and sticks his hand out to make the duo official. Without missing a beat, the rogue shakes the rookie's hand, officially locking in the most random squad of the day. Standing right there, Bucko stutters, asking if the three of them are actually going to fight together, and his buddy confirms, saying they should register right away. Walking toward the tunnel, Hisashi crowns himself the boss and demands total obedience, but the kid says he can't make any promises. Watching the mess unfold from afar, Benjamin is boiling with rage seeing a rank a noble stoop so low as to team up with lower-class trash. Adjusting his glasses furiously, the corrupt teacher decides to let it slide, knowing that just forming a team doesn't guarantee the rookies will actually survive. Showing his truly evil side, the guy plans to capitalize on the fatal accidents that always happen during dungeon runs. Blinded by hate, the suited guy promises himself he's going to love watching the trio of idiots meet their end in the pitch black. Near the creepy entrance, the students group up and do their final checks before raiding the rocky maze. Suddenly, the teacher's annoying voice calls out to the hero, forcing the team to hit the brakes right there. The crooked guy walks over, mocking the commoner's luck for actually finding a rich kid crazy enough to adopt him. Sick of the trash talk, Tatsuma asks what kind of lie the instructor is going to invent to block him from taking the test this time. Faking a polite tone, Benjamin states he won't step in, since the kid managed to meet all the requirements for the exam. But right after, the teacher tells the student to be extra careful in the maze, promising that absolutely nobody is coming to save him if things go totally south. Terrified by the grim warning, the chubby kid questions what the heck that meant, while the swordsman tells him to chill and ignore the garbage threat. Overflowing with confidence, Tatsuma laughs at the warning, claiming his biggest fear is that the cave will be too easy and bore him to tears. The suit-wearing guy instantly scowls, pissed off by the massive disrespect from the bottom tier student who keeps challenging him to his face. Hiding his anger, the professor hands a pitch black key over to the rogue, advising the leader to handle the item with extreme caution. Checking the artifact, Hisashi notices it's made of obsidian and finds it super weird, since standard keys are always silver mithril. Making up an excuse, Benjamin claims the supply changed at the 11th hour and mocks the veteran, asking if he's getting cold feet. Laughing internally, the crooked teacher celebrates handing them the key to the cursed zone, where the difficulty is absolutely brutal for rookies. Watching the team walk away, the guy is 100% sure the trio is going to be wiped out permanently in a super messy way. Standing in front of the portal's glowing beam, the team leader steps up and tells the squad it's time to get to work. As soon as they cross over into the dark zone, the elite kid takes charge to map out their combat strategy. He assigns the chubby kid to be the frontline meat shield, and says he'll hang in the back, setting up stealth hits. Before the redhead can even finish talking, Tatsuma just casually walks away, totally ignoring the self-appointed boss's game plan. Tilted by the disrespect, the leader tells the rookie to freeze, warning him that wandering aimlessly in a veteran dungeon is a guaranteed game over. Afraid of the worst, the paladin casts his giant light shield to illuminate the area and protect the squad from getting jumped. The defender begs the warrior to get behind the shield and stick to the plan, but ends up stepping on a hidden pressure plate in the dirt. Hearing the rock crack right under Bucko's boot, the hero's eyes widen as he realizes they just walked right into a trap. Out of nowhere, an ungodly swarm of monstrous spiders drops from the ceiling, completely swamping the main character. Absolutely panicking, the chubby kid drops to his knees behind his shield, screaming that he has a severe phobia of anything with way too many legs. Stepping up, Hisashi ignites fire magic on his blades and tells the cowardly paladin to just hide in the back. The veteran easily slices through one of the monsters, bragging that these bugs are super weak to fire damage. He uses the moment to roast the shield guy's fear, calling it pathetic to freeze up over a couple of bugs. But the trash talk dies in his throat when he notices something completely surreal happening, right in the middle of the swarm. The rogue watches in pure shock as the massive horde literally walks right past the swordsman, acting like he doesn't even exist. Mind blown by the monster's bizarre pathing, the elite kid asks himself what the heck is going on and if the beasts are glitching out. The guy remembers these pests track their prey by sniffing out magic, always targeting the players with the biggest mana pools first. Reading the room, he figures that since Tatsuma hasn't cast a single spell, his energy tank should be totally full and drawing all the aggro. The big secret is that the kid intentionally nuked his own magic, swearing an oath to conquer everything using pure physical blade skills. The kid's stats show a hidden perk that permanently flatlined his mana pool, forcing him to burn stamina to pop his class moves instead. Hisashi realizes that by rejecting the magic system, the rookie unlocked an insane path to infinitely scale his raw physical stats. Blown away by the sheer guts, the rich kid admits it's basically impossible to rank up without magic and officially labels the warrior as a total wild card. The veteran's deep thoughts get shattered instantly when his buddy screams at him to get his head back in the game and watch the enemies. Shaking with anxiety, Butcho swears everything is fine and promises he'll keep his partner in one piece. Right then, the team watches the bugs vanish, scurrying off into the deep, dark corners of the cave. Tatsuma calmly points out the creatures bailed and weren't actually trying to eliminate them anyway. Tucking away his daggers, Hisashi tries to figure out what the heck the point of the spider trap was. The warrior guesses the bugs were just an alarm system meant to wake up something way worse. Out of nowhere, a terrifying purple fire erupts in the room, shattering the dungeon's magic seals. Chunks of rock go flying everywhere as a massive dark coffin gets blasted to pieces. Rising from the shadows, a colossal, fully armored skeleton steps out, proving to be the absolute worst nightmare of the zone. The shield guy loses his mind when he realizes the enemy is a terrifying level 5 boss. Sweating buckets, the raidhead realizes the suited teacher handed them the cursed key on purpose, just to wipe them out during the test. The paladin kid asks in a panic if the monster is tough, and the veteran confirms the beast's power level is completely off the charts. With its eyes glowing, the skeleton makes it crystal clear that even level 7 squads couldn't survive one of its hits. Cursing their terrible RNG, the elite guy figures the dungeon just turned into a one-way ticket to the graveyard. The monster raises a giant weapon, announcing it's going to wipe out anyone who trespassed in its dark domain. Terrified of the lethal threat, Hisashi orders the group to scatter and run for their lives. Completely ignoring the warning, Tatsuma charges straight at the target with his chest out. Flashing an excited grin, the rookie kid thinks the whole situation is absolutely awesome. The giant skull winds up for a heavy swing while the warrior sprints right into the danger zone. Moving insanely fast, the hero slides across the floor, dodging the massive sword like it's nothing. Fueled by the extreme danger, the rookie's warrior blood starts boiling over. A thick, crimson energy completely engulfs the main character. The redhead screams, calling his partner an absolute lunatic, yelling that he's not going to perish here because of some reckless, suicidal kid. Stunned by the visual, Butcho can't even comprehend the overwhelming energy pouring off his friend. Staring the Grim Reaper right in the face, the MC realizes there's an actual window to win this boss fight. Without thinking twice, the chubby kid decides to jump into the fray, completely ticking off the cowardly rich kid. The warrior focuses on predicting the boss's attack patterns, telling the tank exactly when to eat the hits. But while dodging another lightning-fast swing, the kid realizes the danger level just spiked way too fast. Not waiting for his partner's green light, Butcho pops his defensive skill and charges in with his shield. The chubby kid pushes forward hard, determined to do his job and soak up the damage. Annoyed by the interruption, the skeleton locks onto the new target while the rookie promises he'll buy them an attack window. Showing zero mercy, the giant boss winds up a devastating strike aimed right at the freshman's force field. With an ear-shattering boom, the sword slams into the glowing barrier, shattering it into pieces instantly. The insane impact launches the shield kid backward so hard he looks like he weighs absolutely nothing. Taking advantage of the broken guard, the bone monster follows up with a brutal kick straight to the student's chest. The poor guy slams violently into the cave wall, sliding down completely defeated with zero chance to counter. Seeing the aftermath of the hit, Hisashi calculates that if the tank got folded like that, one hit on him would mean instant elimination. The cowardly veteran announces he's dipping out of the party, promising to swing by laters just to leave some flowers on their graves. At the same time, the skeleton turns its aggro back to the sword kid and unleashes a slash packed with dark energy. Gripping his rusty weapon with both hands, Tatsuma blocks the charge, setting off a massive flash in the room. The dark beast shoves against the kid's blade, taking the block as a massive insult. With intense eyes, the MC announces that he's the only threat the monster needs to worry about from here on out. The rogue freezes in pure shock, watching the lowest tier kid tank the abyss completely solo. Right then, the redhead realizes that from the very start, the kid treated them like they were just dead weight. Furious at reality, the hero yells to draw the boss's aggro, making sure his teammates don't take any more damage. Stung by the disrespect, the noble fires up flame spells on both his daggers so he doesn't look totally useless. Leaping onto the monster's spine, the leader goes for a critical hit using his fiery blades. But the system doesn't register a single point of damage, leaving the snob totally speechless at the beast's flawless armor. Tanking direct hits, the warrior grumbles that the sneak attack strategy failed miserably. Without dropping a single point of HP, the giant skull grabs the veteran by the throat in the blink of an eye. Using the golden opportunity, the rank D kid rushes in while the skeleton drops the playboy to try and guard itself. The beast actually panics at the freshman's insane speed as he pops up right in its blind spot. With perfect execution, Tatsuma slides his steel right through the monster's heavy joint. The skeleton lord's arm gets violently severed from its body, making the veteran redhead practically pass out from the shock. A massive dust cloud kicks up when the beast's giant hand finally hits the dungeon floor. Watching the result of the strike, the noble grits his teeth, totally accepting that his ego just took a massive L. He realizes that even after dumping all his magic into his attacks, he couldn't put a single scratch on the skull boss. Meanwhile, the kid everyone treated like garbage just chopped off a piece of the boss using one swing of a busted sword. Losing its mind over the missing arm, the boss swings its massive blade with its remaining hand, trying to eliminate the freshman. Ducking in a flash, the hero dodges the lethal swing that practically grazes the top of his hair. Trying to help set up a combo, Hisashi delivers a heavy kick to the beast's lower joints. Tatsuma complains that the boss locked onto him again, and tells his teammate to speed it up so he doesn't become a liability. Annoyed by the call-out, the rich guy yells that he lost his balance and tells his partner to chill out. But after watching the kid block yet another brutal strike from the skeleton, the veteran throws his pride out the window and acknowledges the absurd strength of the sword warrior.